If God has chosen to write his laws on your heart, you better learn to begin to listen to your heart. And you better stop demonizing it. And you ought to create room to recognize that authoritative voice that God has written internally inside of you. And understand that the nearest place of authority is sought within, not through some outer structure of arbitrary authority or institution. Now, these things can be useful to help equip us in that journey. I'm not saying that. But I am saying we need to rethink the way we demonize the idea of following your heart. You ought to follow your heart because that's where God has written his laws. Look at that. I put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts. It's an illustration that the new covenant reality is an internal reality, not an external reality to which we're trying to conform, but an internal reality to which we're trying to align. Do you see the difference? And this is the promise of the new covenant. So you've got to ask yourself, do I believe this is true? Now, I'm not saying that there's not a place to grow in discernment and to understand the difference between listening to my random stream of consciousness and paying attention to the voice of God within. No, there's a skill to be learned in that. I am just saying that begins on a journey that should take us inward. It should take us into a regular practice of quiet, a regular practice of silence, because we've got to fight for that space if we're ever going to learn to listen to what's going on in here. So that's significantly different than what I got by blending Old Covenant and New Covenant principles together growing up. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. Verse 11, this is a real doozy. I mean, for me, when I read this, I'm an evangelical that lives and dies by the idea of the Great Commission.